Board of Architectural Review for Tuesday, May 28th. Let's take roll call.
Thank you. I'll proceed with roll call. Chair Anderson.
Here.
Vice Chair Whalen.
Here.
Board Member Black.
Here.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
Board Member Six.
Here.
Board Member Sovereign.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, we will move into public comment. So any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not on today's agenda.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for general public comment, so I'm going to turn my attention over to virtual comment. And I do not see any hands raised for virtual comment for general public comment. We did not receive any letters for general public comment, so at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
Thank you. We will close public comment and move to the approval of the minutes from our meeting on May 13th. Move we accept the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, please, Chair. On item number 2, 617 Bradbury, comment number 3, which I made, this is just to clarify the comment a bit. The board that reconsider the exposed concrete base and explore other cladding or expressions that are compatible with the proposed historic district guidelines. If that's acceptable to the other members?
What do you mean by proposed historic district guidelines, since it's not?
It is, my understanding is, it is not.
Proposed, the potential one, I got it.
Yes.
Okay,
Those
fine.
guidelines that are proposed.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Chair Anderson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen.
Yes.
Board Member Black.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here at the meeting.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
Board Member Six.
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Board Member Sovereign.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we'll move to the approval of the consent meeting on May 20th. 2024.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. There was one item on the May 20th consent meeting. Item A, 109 West Calle Crespus, and the project received project design approval and final approval, and the project compatibility analysis criteria were met.
Okay, I'll move we accept the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Take roll call.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes?
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Six,
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, let's move on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. Anything from staff?
No announcements.
Okay. And any subcommittee reports? Okay. So we will move on to item 1. This is a new item, a one-time pre-application consultation at 419 West Pueblo Street. This is a proposal to demolish the existing 19-space parking lot, construct a new 6,690 square foot addition to the existing 8,202 square foot child care center, including a covered walkway to connect the existing and proposed structures. This review is for comments only. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project will require submittal of a formal application and compliance with project compatibility findings and urban design guidelines.
I have a conflict
Okay.
with this, so I'll have to step down.
All right, thanks. And if the applicant's here, they can come forward.
Good afternoon.
Are you the applicant?
I'm Ron Lafayette with Cottage. I don't have my other two folks here, so I don't know.
They're not here yet, but they're coming. Oh, okay, well then let's,
Hang around.
yeah, let's take a short recess until they get here.
Thanks.
Okay. ABR, and I already introduced item 1. I already read it into the meeting. So if you all want to introduce yourselves, you'll have the 15 minutes to present your project.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Heidi Jones, agent for the applicant.
Brian Cornell. Push that button.
Ron Lafferkin, Cottage Health.
Ron, did you want to start with a
I
little
do.
explanation of why we're here?
I do. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. I just have a couple of notes I just want to bring out. So as I mentioned, my name is Ron Lafferkin. I'm the Director of Total Rewards for Cottage Health. So I oversee a part of Human Resources, which includes our existing on-site children's center. So they fall under the scope with me. I don't know if you're aware, but Cottage has been long in the business of having employer-sponsored childcare. We've had it since the 80s. And in the year 2000, we were fortunate enough to rebuild that center, and we've created a really beautiful learning and education center for our children, the children of our employees, which presently houses about 80 children on average on a daily basis, ranging from 4 months of age up through 4 years of age. So it's a nice sized child care center, but we also have a huge waiting list of about 90 children sitting, waiting to try and get some care. And as you can imagine, infant care is one of the more difficult things to get for children, because a lot of that has to do with the younger the child, the more teachers you need per child. So for an infant, for example, the ratio is 4 to 1. But if you look at preschool, the ratio is somewhere around 16 to 20 to 1, right? So it's really expensive to create that type of care. So what we're hoping to do is add an addition onto our existing center that will increase capacity from what we have now, which is about 17 infants on average per day, to 80. So a lot of screaming babies. And toddlers, we have about 24 or so on average. We're going to increase that to 80 as well. That's what we're hoping to do. It's a big challenge for and a lot of these folks are your frontline workers. So they're your nurses, they're your therapists, so on. And, the commute, the challenge of living on the Central Coast, finding care, all of those things. We find that when parents are closer to their children, they can go over there and breastfeed at lunch, they can go spend some quality time with them during their break. Really makes a difference in them wanting to stay and be part of an employer. And it's really hard to have a benefit, or call it a benefit, when you have 90 people waiting for a space. Then it just kind of becomes, well, what's the big deal for me? I'll never get in, type of a thing. So with this addition, we hope to reduce our waiting list by 90%. And so that's what this is about, and I really appreciate your time and consideration today.
Okay. So I have to confess to you, in my 41 years, this is actually one of my favorite projects that we did. I guess how old is it now? It's older than Scott's child who was there, but it's 3 little buildings. We kind of did this Hansel and Gretel cottage, which is the entrance now, and then a little more traditional craftsman style, and then in back is kind of this a little bit more of a barn looking building. Obviously the neighborhood has got a mix of the residential, and I don't know why that's not changing sheets. I'll go up there. And obviously Sansom Clinic, which is very large, which is kind of right across the street. So this is an opportunity to take advantage of, sorry. Yeah, I know. Old guy with mouse. So you saw here is the existing parking lot. It's 19 spaces, and so this is the new building that would go into that area. We do, the program, as Ron mentioned, is fairly extensive, so we really ended up fitting as much as we could, and we pretty much got there with what you see. There are requirements for outdoor open space associated with childcare that we're having to meet as well. So we created this little central courtyard. This will become the new entrance to the entire facility. So we're going to close this off. This little Hansel and Gretel cottage will now become infant space. Then the area in back here will continue to just be open play yard, but a parent will bring their child in through a main entrance, and then they will either go to the more immediate spaces, which will likely be infant, or continue on across and come into some of the other areas of the existing facility. Most of this curb right now is a green curb, and I think that will just be extended so the parents can park there and drop their kid off and, be able to do that in a 15-minute kind of a period. And then there's a small little second floor, so the admin function that is occurring right now here is going to move up to that second floor portion of this building. So I don't know what the color is, frankly. This is kind of the first pass. I was even thinking of something a little bit more peachy, but I think it also might be lovely if it was just a white building. So I'd love your input on that. But the whole idea of this architecturally is that it just has, obviously, it's compatible with the cottage neighborhood character. It's a little bit barny in its configuration, but it kind of works nicely with the second floor element to do that. So that is the project. So we welcome your comments. Obviously, we are early in the process. We still have to submit our application. And there's work to be done, but your comments are welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will open public comment. This item.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they can please fill one out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so next we will move on to virtual comment. I do not see any hands raised for virtual comment, so we will move on to written correspondence, of which we did not receive any for this particular item. And at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
All right, thank you. And we'll move to questions from the board. Board Member 6, would you like to start us off?
Yes, the only issue that I would have is the sensitivity to the west neighbor. And I was wondering what your anticipation of the use of that 10-foot side yard is. Is that going to be an active kids area, and what's the intent there? And are you concerned with the constant, it's a lovely ding, it's a lovely noise, but 24 hours a day.
Well, it's not 24 hours a day. It'll obviously be, during the day.
Yeah.
The new building is going to be exclusively infant.
Uh-huh.
So there isn't a lot of noise associated with the infants.
The tricycles and so
And
forth.
this area will continue to be for the toddler and the play
Okay.
area. And I'm not showing the full extent of that, but there is a large play area. So I don't anticipate much, if any, noise along here. You can see one thing I didn't mention is there's a little existing building there, so we're proposing to take advantage of that footprint.
So primarily that green is because of the setback and not going to be intensely used with noisy activities.
They'll be infants, so they will go out there and crawl around a little bit. But yeah,
All right.
There might be some crying occasionally, but no, I
Okay.
think the noise will be pretty minimal along there.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Vice Chair Whalen?
Thank you, Chair Anderson. As usual, Mr. Six's comments lead me to comments. What are your operating hours? You said it's not 24 hours, right? But I would imagine it's like 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
6:30.
Something like that.
6:30 to 6.
Very early. Well, the comment that I have tearing off of that, my knowledge of these facilities is the drop-off, crush, and pickup, but more often the drop-off. And Mr. Cornell, you talked about the area Can you talk in a little more detail about how that drop-off area might be effectively handled in terms of the neighborhood, not only the facility? Can you zoom in on that area too, so that we know
Yeah.
what we're talking about?
I can try here.
Right.
So currently, there are 2 curb cuts in these 2 locations, so we'll do away with that. And basically this area, you can see those curb cuts right here now. So those will basically be done away with, and what we're hoping is that we are allowed to do green curb or a combination of some white curb, some green curb, the entire length in front of the facility, so that will work. Presently, I think the green curb runs from about here across to the end of where the parking structure starts, which is right here. And that seems to work with the operation today. So I think that by pretty much doubling that, it should work fine. We don't see any other, the parents might park along Los Olivos, but I think primarily it's going to be off of Castillo that loading and drop-off will occur.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Board Member Black?
I think my only question would be, Brian, do you have photographs of the existing buildings adjacent? I'm just trying to, I'm somewhat familiar with it, but I just wanted to refresh the architectural character in my mind.
So let me zoom back out here so we can see the key. So you can see that E is looking directly across Los Olivos. And then D is looking back at the corner, so that's an apartment building there. And then there's another at the other corner, which isn't shown on this sheet, B. So that shows the apartment complex on the other corner. And then, of course, directly opposite that, we don't really have a good photo, but there's a parking lot that's across Los Olivos from this apartment here. And then I'm trying to see if we have other Los Olivos. Yeah, really, that just shows, this is the neighbor directly to the west that Commissioner Six was talking about, or Board Member Six.
And and then the current childcare buildings, just point those out.
Those are here on
Okay.
Los Olivos.
Little cottages.
So you can see, it's kind of hard to see in this photo, but that's where the green curb is today.
Got it. Okay, those are my only questions.
Board Member Soffer?
So it was a parking lot, so everything's all good, I'm sure, with, you don't need those parking spaces because of the parking structure, so everything's,
Yeah, we've done an initial parking analysis to see what the capacity of the 2 parking structures are, and there is ample capacity to handle these lost 19 spaces, and then whatever additional demand would be as a result of the expansion.
Okay. And then for me, can we just go to the elevations? And if we can just look at the south elevation. What is the height of the neighbor to your west? Do you happen to?
I do not have that on the elevations, but again, going back to these photos, here you can see the exit of the parking lot. And so it's a one-story building that's separated
Setback,
by
yeah.
their parking lot or their driveway.
Cool.
And these are all, I'm pretty sure almost all the houses to the west are all one story.
Okay. Okay, any other follow-up questions?
Yes,
Sure.
Chair Anderson, there is no internal connection to the parking structures, right? But and no possibility, they are disparate parcels?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Well, they aren't, to be clear, they're not separate parcels, because all of these, there were there was a plethora of lots in this block that all the property lines were removed. That is an issue that we have, by the way, relative to creeks and stormwater, because now we have one big parcel. And so we may actually have to do a lot split or something like that to address the stormwater problem of this. But yes, there is right along this existing, basically, it's not shown here, but this is a solid concrete wall that runs the entire length of that childcare.
My question was more about the adjacency in terms of reducing traffic. If one could just park in the structure, take your childcare, and walk to the hospital, but I get, that's not in the realm.
It's
Well,
close
sure.
by.
I mean,
It's very close by.
you could, but the Pueblo parking structure, the one that is right next to this, is predominantly patient and visitor. Knapp, which is a couple of blocks away, is the parking structure for employees. So I think most employees probably drop their child off and then go park in the Knapp parking structure.
It's more of a planning commission concern anyway, so I don't want to step on their turf.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's move into comments. So they're here for pre-application. So I believe we'll just be taking comments and no motion.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Board Member 6, go for it.
Yes, I think it's a charming little complex, and it's appropriate to the neighborhood. Neighborhood's eclectic, and I think it fits in well. I think that still in deference to the neighbor to the west, I noticed that most of your plate heights are I don't remember whether 10.4 or 10.7, but I think in that one mass that's against the west neighbor, that if most of the occupants are crawling, they could probably have a lower plate height. Yeah. And I think that would be, bring it down to a very sensitive height, not to match, but to be very sensitive to that neighbor to the west. And as far as colors, I didn't see a logical architectural break, but perhaps maybe different hues would be, if there's a place for it to happen. But if not, I think the white or the colors that you've chosen for the subtle yellows and greens and so forth, I think maybe the red is just too much barn-like. So those are my comments. I think it's a great project and a very important contribution to the campus.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Whalen?
I will echo the comments. I do think it's a delightful design in addition to the neighborhood, appropriate in its massing scale, materials, and architectural expression. I particularly like the way the light tower announces itself in the neighborhood as being a destination. I would differ from Member 6. I like the red and the imagery of the little red schoolhouse. Again, that sort of imagery that you might be after. I might suggest that you consider adding a base, however slender. It seems slightly just sort of plunked on the site. And if it were to be set on, it doesn't have to be much, just a suggestion. And it took me a moment to figure out that Barney was not the purple dinosaur, but thank you. That's all I have.
Board Member Black?
I'd agree with those comments as well. I don't mind the red myself, or some variation of myself.
Board Member Soffer?
I think it's a great project. I like where it's going, and I think the community needs more projects like this.
Yes, I agree with those comments. I think it's cited well. I think the mass bulk height and scale is also within the appropriate attractiveness for the neighborhood. I would actually lean away from the red unless you're going to argue the storybook and the Ronald McDonald and like that kind of thing. And I like the idea of adding a base to kind of break that up. But yeah, I think it's a great project. So thank you. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
back.
Thank you.
See, even though I was late, we still are on time, aren't we? Good. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, man, we're doing good. Okay, let's open up item 2. I lost some board members. Is board member Noon coming back? Yeah, he should. Okay. Hey. Okay, let's just take a 2-minute recess. ABR. Item 2 is 305 Rancheria Street and 515 through 524 West Montecito Street. This is a new item for concept review. Proposal to demolish the existing development, including 28 rental housing units, 49 parking spaces, and a community center building, and construct a new 52-unit affordable housing development on the 2-acre site. Adjusted lot size due to pending lot line adjustment with 515 West Gutierrez Street. Project utilizes the city's AUD program and state density bonus law. The project has an average unit size of 832 square feet. Density bonus concessions include relief from the front setback requirement for the 3-story buildings and the height limit restriction for Building B only. No density bonus units are proposed. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project will require compliance with project compatibility findings and urban design guidelines. Welcome. If you could introduce yourselves and then walk us through your plans. You have about 15 minutes to show us what you got.
Chair, I just have a quick
Oh, sorry.
note. I just wanted to add that since it's concept review, for you to consider whether they need story poles or not when they come back. Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Shelton. I'm architect with RRM Design Group.
Pardon the interruption. Can you turn on your mic, please, right there, and reintroduce yourself? Thank you.
Sorry, thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Shelton, and I am an architect with RRM Design Group.
Katie Klein, landscape architect, RRM Design Group.
All right, so to go through our project, so we are, our proposed project, Monterey Village, as stated, we are proposing 52 units. So the existing project, which I'd like to go through a little bit, is let's see, here. There you go. So the existing project has 28 units, mostly 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and 5 bedrooms. Predominantly, well, they're all townhomes with surface parking. And some of the current challenges on the existing site is the circulation is circuitous, and it's hard to access some of the rear units. The driveways are also very narrow, and in general, the site is underutilized. Some other challenges with the existing design are the outdoor spaces are underutilized and segmented, and the community space located in the rear of the site is separated from the residence and does not really open up onto a large plaza or open space. So these are some of the items we identified with the Housing Authority as challenges and things we sought to take a close look at with the plan for redevelopment. So shifting to the proposed site plan. So up on the screen now, you'll see the proposed site plan. So with redeveloping the site, we took a big look at the circulation and how we could simplify and improve this and also make it safer to enter the site. So we are using the existing entry and exit aisles, but we are enlarging those. And the buildings are set back from those more so than the original development. We also designed a single loop to introduce a larger buffer between the rear neighbors and the neighbors to the left. And you'll see what this also does is it groups all the buildings together so that you can move through the site a little bit more easily, and the open spaces are more continuous and open up onto one another. Another key thing with the proposed development was introducing a wider variety of unit types. So we are increasing the density from 28 units to 52 units. The original units, as I mentioned, were mostly 3-bedrooms and 4-bedroom townhomes. The proposed units include both townhomes and flats, and it's a variety of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. This building here in the kind of bottom left corner of the site is stacked flats, and we do have a community center located on the ground level in the middle of this building that has street access to provide a better neighborhood connection. And this also opens up onto the open space, which includes tot lot and play areas and courtyard seating. And then as you move to the back of the site, this back building also opens up onto a continuous courtyard plaza, and these are also stacked flats. And then to the right here, these two buildings have both townhomes and flats. And these, we provide smaller courtyard spaces for privacy for the townhome units. So moving along, we'll go to, let's see here. Our street elevations. So you'll see this first view here is the streetscape elevation from Montecito Street. So we tried to step the buildings as best as possible to provide more housing, but also make sure we're still fitting in with the adjacent neighborhood and not overpower the street with tall elevations. So we, on the edge of this first building, we have 2-story elements that then step up to a 3-story massing, and then you'll see as we near the corner, we have 2-story elements that then again step up to 3-story townhomes. And we chose to break up the buildings to provide that residential feel, and again, try and be as consistent as possible with the surrounding context. So now going to the first building floor plans. Let's see. So this first building, Building A, this is the one with the community center at the ground level. So this is a 3-story building with 2-story end pieces. And all the units are designed with an open corridor to allow for more light and visibility onto the courtyards. Then I'll go to the back building, Building B. So building B, this building consists of 3-story and 4-story elements. So this is where we are using one of our density bonus concessions for the height increase. So at the back of this building, at the front of this building is where we have the 4-story element. So looking at the elevations let's see here. There we go. So facing the parking where we have the neighbors to the north is 3 stories, and then at what's in the middle of the height is where it steps up to 4 stories. So we're just over the height limit for a portion of this building in the middle. And again, we're proposing open corridors that face onto the courtyard in the middle. And then quickly moving on to Building C. So these buildings occur at the intersection and then adjacent to the intersection. So we have flats stacked for 2 stories on the end, and then those step up to 3-story elements. So you'll see at the street here is where you see the 2-story elevation, and then those step up into the 3-story townhomes. And then I will touch on the colors for a bit. So our color palette that we are currently proposing, we tried to choose neutral colors that blended with the neighborhood, while also adding pops of color to provide differentiation along the building mass and help break it up. Looking at some of the photos of the existing context, you'll see that, let's see here. So right next door to our building, it's kind of an eclectic neighborhood with lots of different colors and styles. So right next door we have kind of a red barn. Then across the street, directly across the street, we have a more contemporary building with some red accents and neutral kind of beige and white. And then across the street on the other side, we have these townhome buildings with the pops of blue. So these are partly where we've been drawing our inspiration from. And with that, I'll turn it over to Katie to touch more on the landscaping.
Thanks, Sarah. Will you control for me?
Yes.
So as Sarah mentioned, we really looked at the circulation, making these spaces feel safer, more open, creating more visibility, adding a kids' play area, and 85 new trees are proposed as well, which are a mix of king and queen palms, ginkgo, maple, arbutus, and Brisbane box. We're going to the street tree committee, so if you go to the next sheet, that'll show the existing conditions for, or the last sheet, yeah. This is our existing tree disposition plan, so we'll be going to the street tree committee and getting all of that approved. If you go back, we tried to keep as many trees as possible. This is the planting plan that shows all the new trees proposed, and the previous sheet is the hardscape layout only for clarity of circulation and all the spaces of the courtyards. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, and I think some more of your team members came. Did you guys want to say anything? You can introduce yourself and...
Sorry I'm late. I'm Dale Azam.
Put your microphone on, please.
Right here?
Yeah, just click it, yeah.
I'm Dale Azam with the Housing Authority. Sorry I'm late. I just wanted to say this property, we cannot wait to redevelop it. It's one of our more aged 70s construction and really needs the help. And so we're very excited about the plans that we have here. I don't know if they already got into this, but the property when it was built was very large unit oriented. There's 3, 4, and actually quite a few 4 and 5 bedroom units, which we just don't see a lot of demand for. So the idea here, besides just complete new product, is more appropriate sized units, 52 units that'll be 1s, 2s, and 3s instead of larger. So happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's open up public comment for item 2.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I'd like to invite up Kate Newell. Ms. Newell, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Please make sure your microphone is on.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for taking the time. I have been a homeowner on Rancheria for over 30 years, and my concern is the impact on the neighborhood. While I understand that there's a need for housing, there is so much going on in, at Glen Annie, at San Marcos Growers. I just don't think that an already impacted neighborhood needs to have more units. And I disagree with the Housing Authority that we need to have a different sized unit. I'm in commercial real estate, and I've worked for, people in town that have taught me well, and I disagree that we should double the units in an already impacted area. Santa Barbara City College, the homeowners, we've got a community garden, the parking, the impact to the neighborhood is going to be absolutely detrimental. It's already impacted. We've already gotten, parking is already a situation where we've had to, on Rancheria, we're now a bike lane only on the right side, parking, and this is just going to impact it in a very detrimental way. And I disagree with, fine, redo the units, but don't double the units in an already seriously impacted area. You go around the corner to Coronel, you go around to, you're right around the corner from, San Andreas. It's already a very, very impacted area. So I disagree with adding additional units, additional people, and 52 units doesn't mean 52 people.
Hi, thank you. Your 2 minutes are
Okay,
up.
sorry.
But thank you. Okay.
Okay, next we will see if we have any further public comment. I don't see anyone else in the audience moving to do so, so we will move on to virtual comment. And I do have a hand raised from Miss Linda Blackburn. So Miss Blackburn, you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Oh, I apologize. My hand isn't raised.
Okay, no problem. Alan Remedios has his hand raised. Alan,
Yes.
you will have 2
Yes,
minutes
thank you.
to
Can
speak.
you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thanks for the time. And I think I would just kind of go on the last comment about parking. We reside on the Montecito Street side, and we would concur about just concerns over parking density. It's already a real issue on the Montecito Street side. So I would like to hear more about plans for adding parking along with the increased number of units that are being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to correspondence. And for this particular item, we did not receive any written correspondence. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
Thank you. And just to clarify our board's purview, we can't comment on asking for more parking or less parking. It's really about the aesthetics and the mass bulk and scale of the project. But I think if the applicant wants to tell us if they're hitting the amount that's required and if you have already done the study of how many existing bedrooms there were and how many are proposed, that might help the situation.
Absolutely. Thank you, board member. So I can highlight the proposed parking a little bit more. So the current development, which is 28 units and mostly 4 bedrooms, or 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and 5 bedrooms, has 49 parking stalls. The proposed development, which has a higher mix of 2 bedrooms, so decreasing the size of the units, as well as 1 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, we are providing 76 stalls, which is 10 stalls more than the required number, which is only 66.
Okay,
thank you.
Could I add to that?
Sure.
It's been a while since I've looked at it, but if I'm not mistaken, I think our actual bedroom count ends up being similar to what we have now. It's just the distribution's different. So just
Okay.
wanted to make that point as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we will close public comment. Maybe I've already done that, but we'll move on to questions from the board. Board Member Sofrin, would you like to begin? We are here for a concept review, just as a reminder.
I mean, my only question was about sort of like parking, but it was more of like transient. Like, do you guys have spaces because you're creating this community house area, like where guests will be able to come and get dropped off? Like, how that traffic flow would work and what happens?
Yeah, I can clarify that a little bit. So the community center, to clarify its use, is intended for the residents, but we will be providing a few stalls of guest parking within the parking count.
That's it for questions. Thank you.
Board Member Noon?
Sorry, guys. Just a quick question. Did you indicate that you've got some 3 stories and you've got some 4-story fronts? You've got the 4-story, am I correct, at the Rancho Rio, excuse me, at that street front, and then the 3 stories are deeper in the property?
So, no. Let me clarify and maybe walk through.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so the 4 stories are in the middle of the site, and we did this to offer a larger buffer to neighbors. So the 4 stories occur above these 4 units right here. And then let's see here. We've got 2 stories on the ends of, let's see, this building. So this is 2-story, this is 2-story, and then the rest of this building is 3 stories. And then along at the intersection, this is a 2- and 3-story building. So we have 2 stories here, and then these 3 townhomes are 3-story townhomes.
Okay. Okay, I had it backwards. So you've got the 4 stories deeper at the site. Okay. All right, that's it for now.
Okay, Board Member Black?
Speaking of stories, so the community center, if I'm understanding it, that's 3 stories? And is it all devoted to community activities, or there's a housing above it?
Housing above, correct, yeah. So just ground floor community center.
Got it. I have no other questions.
Vice Chair Whalen?
Thank you, Chair Anderson. Did you explore alternative site plans? This is specifically, why are the townhomes located in that area rather than another area?
Yes, so to answer your question, we did explore probably about 10 different site plans. The part of the reason the townhomes are in this portion of the site was both for kind of continuity with the neighborhood, and then also one of the advantages of the townhomes is that they are self-parked, so they have parking within them. And so we thought it was important to make sure that the parking was close to each unit it served. And so in this area of the site, we were able to hide the parking from the street view and also serve those units.
All right. And on your presentation, you referred that the existing outdoor spaces were underutilized. What does that mean?
Correct. So let me go to some photos. So the current outdoor spaces, you'll see that there's not a central playground, and they consist mostly of just large open grass areas without a lot of connection to the units. And so part of the design was, or the redevelopment was looking how to better activate these spaces with both visibility and seating and playgrounds.
All right. And then shifting to Ms. Klein, of course, I don't want to leave you out of this. Are all the street trees on Montecito to be removed? And if so, what was behind that decision?
Yeah, can you go to the tree protection plan? We're going to be going to, we have a whole, list of trees and report. We still need to go to street tree committee, so this is still in review. But along Montecito Street, so you go to the next sheet, that's the removals. So we're keeping a lot, some of these look like trees and they're actually palms too, and giant birds of paradise. So we're not removing any of the actual street trees. We're just removing some trees that are in the way of walkways and circulation that aren't necessarily significant, a few ornamental pears and carrot woods and palm trees.
Good to hear, because it's probably the most singular attractive thing about the existing development is that beautiful row of street trees. Again, to you, Ms. Klein, on the development plan, there's a blue area and an orange area. I guess that's the child playground.
Correct.
What are the materials there?
Yeah, I think that is still being developed. We're still in concept, but it would be, the rubber play material.
All right. But real rocks.
Hopefully.
Still under discussion.
I'll fight for those.
All right. I had some trouble figuring out what was building A, B, and C, and you might have a key. I'm pretty clear on it now, but it took a lot of wrestling to figure that out. Can you talk about your exterior materials, please, both the roof and the siding?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see for the roof, we're proposing standing seam metal roofing, and then we have a mix of materials. So we have both vertical board and bat, horizontal siding, and stucco proposed. We're pulling from some of the craftsman and agrarian influences of the surrounding neighborhood.
All right. I think that answers all my questions. You, Mr. Six?
Thank you. I don't know which rendering it was, but there was a 3D rendering with significant. I'm mainly concerned with the four-story elements, and I appreciate that they're buried in and buffered from the surrounding. But are there significant trees on the east and west to soften those four-story elevations, opportunities on your plan? Or have you taken opportunities on your site plan for large trees in order to soften the west and east legs of the building A?
Yes, so there's existing Chinese pistache, those trees that are the big green blobs right down below towards the street. And then those are the ones just north of those are Brisbane box, which are very vertical trees that provide.
They're mature now?
Sorry?
They're mature now?
Oh, no, sorry. They're new. We're proposing
okay.
new. And they're existing, there's mature existing ones that are those kind of blobs.
Yes.
Like green blobs. Those are existing mature Chinese pistache that are being protected.
And will the new proposed, this side and for the sake of, I think it's 315 and 317 Rancheria Street, residents buried in the dog leg of the project. Are there major trees along that east elevation?
Along Rancheria is what you're asking?
No, if I, the east, no, yeah, right there. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so there are trees proposed there. If you go to the legend, I can double check what those are. But yes, we're proposing trees, vertical trees along all the building elevations. So arbutus.
I think he meant along the property line.
Oh, yeah.
Next to the neighbor.
So the red to the north up.
Yeah, just
I
on
know.
the inside of the dog leg, where, right there.
Oh, right in that, yeah.
Bingo.
We aren't proposing any now. I don't know the size of that planter. We can study that. We are doing palm trees around, just to the south there, so maybe we can wrap those around. I'll
I
have
don't
to
have
study.
much faith in palm trees, but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Okay.
existing
we're
on
getting into comments. Thank you. So, the four-story elements don't require elevators, correct?
We are providing an elevator, or proposing an elevator.
Is it required?
I would have to triple check.
Okay. And are these are leading questions because of one of my comments would be, are the unit types for the east and west wings of the building A the same as the building types for, yes, building A?
Yes, so buildings A and B, which include the stacked flats,
Yeah.
have, yes, those are
Okay.
similar unit types.
All right, very good. I think that's it, my questions.
Okay, can we zoom into your playground courtyard area? What is the building just plan south of that blue wave? What is that is that 2 units in the middle?
Are you referring to
Yes,
this massing
yeah.
here? So this is where our common laundry facility will be on the ground floor. And then we also have storage, and I believe it's a maintenance area. And then above this area, there would be 1-bedroom flats.
Okay. And then can you just walk us through what you're thinking for the trash enclosures and what the bike parking looks like? Because I think it's covered.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our trash enclosures, we are proposing 3 trash enclosures along the site, so they're kind of embedded in the parking rows. And then we are proposing to provide the minimum permanent bike storage, so 1 bike space per unit. And we have 3 enclosures where those are housed in. So 1 down here, and then 2 up here. And then the townhomes would store their bikes within their garages.
And do you have those in elevation? Can we see like how tall they are and the relationship to the buildings?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let's see. So the bike storage for building A is a 1-story mass. It's an enclosed room at the end of the building. And then the bike storage for building B is not visible from the perimeter. It is embedded at the back of the tuck-under parking. So you can't see it from the outside, but it would be here. And to clarify on the ground floor plan,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you. And then what is the material that you're proposing for those perimeter parking spaces?
Permeable pavers.
And then if we could zoom back into the entrance to the community center at the ground floor, yeah. Can we go to the
The
landscape
site plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I guess I don't know if I have a question, maybe it's more of a comment. So, do we have any follow-up questions from the board?
I just have one question. What's the, because we're like so close to the harbor, do we know, like, are there any like flooding issues down there? Because I remember a couple times we had a lot of water issues. No.
This was not identified in, let's see here.
And then can you just point out the front setback that you guys are, I know we don't get a say in that, but I just want to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that point up. So the existing buildings are about 15 feet from the property line. And so with our proposed development, let's see here. The bulk of the building is set back about 18 feet, but we do have the balcony projections, which are within about 11 to 12 feet of the property line.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, let's move into comments. Board Member 6.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I think this is it's a nicely developed project. I think that, this is the kind of a density that we have to expect in a given climate, and I think this is well done. I think that there's a lot of, at the main street frontages, there's a lot of ins and outs, 2 stories and 3 stories, and especially in the townhome or the long finger along Montecito, there's a lot of spaces between and breakups and so forth. I think where the 4 stories are, those are the ones that I'm concerned about. Indeed, there is a lot of buffer. There's 1 lane and 1 parking depth from the neighbors in all cases. So I think it's well placed and well cited. One of the things that I can't help but stir in the mix, but if you took, I think the main impact is those 4-story elevations along Building A, east and west. Could you take the west leg of that 4 stories and put that 4-story over on the east leg of Building A? Do you understand what I'm saying? I think it would, number one, not so much for the neighbors, but you would have then in that deep courtyard, which is now proposed for 4 stories each side, you'd have a southern side that's only 3 stories, and you get a lot more sun and so forth into that courtyard, and that the addition of the 4 stories in that right at the east leg of the Building B, I think it would be buried more. I think that you should explore that for, the livability of that 1 courtyard. And I think that we need further zoom in on, with either photographs or more information on how the east and west Building A affects the neighbors, some up-close photographs, and if there's concerns, if we're going to bury 315 Rancheria or any of the neighbors to the west. I'd like more information on that. The other thing is, I think that your architecture is exaggerating the height of your 4 stories and 3 stories. Could we go to sheet A 3.2? I'll show you the difference here. I think especially when these balcony elements, these narrow, very narrow gabled end elements are ending with a gable end at the very top. It's very vertical, and it really plays the. This is not the 3.2, A 3.2.
See, we've,
Did you retitle them? I think it's your drawing, it's one of your black and white drawings.
You don't know which image it is. You only know that.
Oh.
Sometimes they navigate it.
Do you know your hard-lined elevations of the 3-story?
yeah, we have the colored elevations, but not black and white.
It was on the submittal.
These are the same ones. There's a reduced file, so if they were changed when the file size was reduced, that could have been it, and I can pull those up though.
This is the submittal set.
Do you have a south elevation of Building A, kind of
yes.
looking up the courtyard?
We do have the street view perspectives, if that's what.
Now, A is not on the corner, B is on the corner, and A is inside, right?
A is on, so let me go back to the site plan real quick.
I mean, it's just so easy to see if we can capture that
Yeah, so this
drawing.
is
What I want to talk about.
this is building C right here on the corner.
No. A and B, which one is internal to the site?
The internal one is building B. Can you show us? Yeah.
Yeah, so do you have a south elevation of Building B? No. Internal to the site, the 4-story one.
Yeah. So this is building B.
Okay, so can we zoom in on the very lower right-hand image and the right-hand wing of that? So you see here, on one side, you have a shed roof for the corridor feeding the units on the inside courtyard, correct? And then on the other side, you have your designed gabled balconies. Can you see the radical difference in height between those two? If you had the last balcony of these 4 stories on a shed roof, you would radically reduce your overall height. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand the comment.
The comment, yeah. So I think that whether that's the exact solution or not, but I think you should look at, throughout the project, this expression of the vertical, skinny vertical gable, and find a different way to handle the topmost to bring it down as considerable appearance of height. Now, yeah, so I think that's made, that statement is made. Then you have the north, is there, right there, bingo, that one, is there a way to, I don't know whether it's timbering, kind of the half timber look or whatever to, it just looks like these skinny columns are unfortunate, and your heavy weight above it, it seems like there should be some kind of design element that could tie those two together to make it less top-heavy and skinny-legged for a better, less, for a I think those are my comments, but I think overall it's a very handsome project. It's sited well and massed well.
Vice Chair Whalen?
I'm going to specifically disagree with Member 6 on a number of items. I think it's unfortunate that the parking has been moved to the interior of the block so that the neighbors now share a parking view rather than a backyard or a building. I would re-examine your circulation. I know it's circuitous now, having to back all over, but moving it to the interior of the larger super block seems to be an error in urban design and good neighborliness. On the whole, I think, to that point, I know how your design has been driven by program, and to that, I think the site is a bit overbuilt, resulting in some of these problems, further exemplified by what you described as underutilized open spaces, I now think are a bit overprogrammed, where before we had some lovely panels of lawn, which don't necessarily have to be used but enjoyed as a resident. Now they're largely paved over and, well, like I say, overprogrammed. And if I can quote for a minute from our city charter, the natural charm and beauty of the area and the historical styles and qualities and characteristics of the buildings and architectural features associated with the Santa Barbara past. I really don't find anything about your architectural expression that says Santa Barbara. In fact, I find that your choices of relationship, buildings that you're relating to, are questionable, that it could make a much stronger statement about where we are and thus who we are, and we take such love and pride in being in Santa Barbara. And you'd have a hard time convincing me that this building says anything about Santa Barbara. I do appreciate the building edge along Montecito Street in urban design fashion. I think that, especially if you leave the street trees and add a story or two to the buildings, that's a very commendable method that you're going to choose. Ms. Klein, the play area, I would like to see some plants in there, although they probably just get beat up as a play area. But in large, I think a more lush planting scheme could be proposed. And then finally, let's see, on building C, it's your sheet number AC3. You talked about the colors amplifying or differentiating or modulating the mass, Well, if you want to modulate the mass, you should modulate the mass and not try to do it with color. Not that these are bad colors, it's quite handsome palette, but again, I'll go back to my previous statement. What does this say about being and living in Santa Barbara? So that might require re-examining your exterior materials choices. I think those are all of my comments. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Board Member Black?
I would agree with Mr. Six's comments. I think it's a nice looking project, and I don't have any objection to the architectural style. That neighborhood, and I've been through it many times, is somewhat eclectic, and there's a variety of different styles that this could look to, including a very modern building right across the street. So I don't have any issues with that. I like the way that the size, bulk, and scale has been articulated, and the colors that have been suggested, I think, are quite nice. If we could flip to the landscape plan, please. So my concern is that you have enough vertical massing around, these buildings, which are, going to be sizable. I like your palette of trees. I think maybe the palms might have been overused. For instance, along the west side, Katie, I see a single finger planter, and I'm wondering, rather than having a palm there, you should have something with a canopy tree in it, to sort of soften the impact of your tallest buildings back there, and maybe even adding another canopy tree along that sort of western boundary where you now have 4. If we just had more massing along there. And then I kind of wondered too whether or not on the off the Rancheria entry, whether those should be, instead of palms, be some sort of upright canopy tree as well, just because when you're looking from that direction back to the project, that you can, canopy trees would sort of soften the impact more than mature palms are going to be in the long run. And I think the only other suggestion I would have relative to landscape is where you do have palms, to sort of articulate them in groupings rather than just so that it creates a little bit more mass, informal groupings, if you will, rather than one here and one here and one here. Other than that, I think it's a well done project.
All right, Board Member Noon.
Thank you. Not a lot to add to that. I would tend to agree with Board Member Black, Board Member Six. I think the approach at pulling the buildings, the taller buildings, obviously to the back, pulling them in away from the property, I think that's effective. I'll defer to Board Member Black's comments on, planting that to help the buffers. But I agree, it's a well thought out site and approach. We've still got time to talk about the details, so I won't talk much about those at this point. So I'm in support of the direction.
Thank you. Board Member Soffren?
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Newton. I like the site planning and the arrangement of the structures, but I also agree with Commissioner Whalen sort of about the aesthetic style. To me, the fenestration feels very homogeneous, and I think that there could be an opportunity to mix up the windows and doors and create a little more articulation, just to add some variety, especially since this is a new project and it's going to be here for a long time. I think it's a great start, but I think you can continue to make it better.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I have kind of a mixture of comments about what everyone has said, so I don't know if it's really going to be helpful in that aspect. But a couple things. I do think the mass bulk height and scale is appropriate. I think where the 4-story is located is appropriate. I would consider looking at the south side of Building B and how you could get some more sunlight into that courtyard. I do think it's kind of an old school style to push all the parking to the outside edge. But I do think it has cleaned up the circulation, so I'm not sure how much that's not that big a deal, I guess. But I would be also concerned on that interior courtyard with the playground, how much use that would get. If we can add more planting there, I think that would be beneficial. And then for the architectural style, I actually agree with Vice Chair Whalen and Board Member Sofrin. I feel like this does not the architectural style does not really improve the neighborhood. I don't know if that means you have to steer away from everything that you've proposed, but I do think it needs to be reevaluated to tie into the Santa Barbara culture and maybe a step up for the neighborhood would be my comments. Okay, so they are here for concept. We have also been asked to say if we think they need story poles, and we need to give them direction if we want them to come back for further concept or if they can come back for prelim. And it seems like our board is somewhat split on the architectural style. So this is fun.
Chair Anderson,
yeah.
I float an idea that perhaps this is a big project, is if the applicant make an effort to really distinguish maybe one or two portions of the project to be in a more Spanish, have unique, have very separate, distinct portions of the buildings be very distinct architecture that might wrap in some of the more Hispanic style, and therefore, it was a different project altogether at some point. And we just float that idea out there, because right now we have a architecture that some of us think is acceptable, but it's all throughout the project equally. And perhaps maybe the specialness that other board members are looking at would be concentrated in one area. Maybe that's a way to capture this dilemma.
Okay. I think my opinion on that would be that's fine. I think my issue with the current architectural style is that it's not really, I don't know if I'd really call it a style, and so I think that's where I'm having an issue. But if they were to break it up, I could see you doing it by type, so like your townhomes, like maybe that half is something else. Does anyone else on the board have a thought?
Well, that is a difficult one for the proponent to parse out. Which direction are you going to go? A little of this or a little of that? I'll leave that to your design talents, but my comment was more just expressing some uniqueness about Santa Barbara and the place rather than some sort of lesser identities that could be anywhere. I would move to, I don't think it needs story poles, but
thank you.
Yes, Ms. Anderson, I think that if we do need anything, I don't think we need story poles. And I don't think many of us had a radical objection to the mass spoken scale, so I don't think we even need more modeling, 3D modeling, so I think we can leave it there.
I think that I still think it needs to come back for concept review. Personally, I think there needs more. I think again, there's an opportunity here. This is going to be here for a considerable time. It's a new project, so I think you've made a great start, but I think that we can't. I don't think we
Yeah,
should
I
move
don't know
forward.
if it necessarily needs to become Spanish style. I just, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna attempt at a motion here. I'm going to move for indefinite continuance back to the full board with the following comments. That the board appreciates the mass bulk height and scale of the project. That the board appreciates the site planning. We would like you to restudy the fourth floor and the balconies on building B on the south side and how you can potentially get more light into the courtyard.
I think that's west.
What?
It's the west side.
Sorry, west side. West side. I wrote down west side. I didn't say west side. Okay. Study how the columns integrate into building beyond the north elevation. Study the use of palm trees and the locations and formal groupings and where canopy trees might be more appropriate. And then we would request that the applicant study detailing the architectural style to be less generic and more in keeping with Santa Barbara.
Can we flesh that part out a little bit? I mean, how is that? We have an obligation in terms of neighborhood compatibility, correct?
Yes?
So I don't have well, I've been through this neighborhood before, of course, but maybe if you came back with some clear representations of architectural styles in the neighborhood and to help sort of justify any proposal that you make, that would help. But I don't know what Santa Barbara like is.
Well, yeah, I guess the comments to be less generic, meaning where you could take this and put it even in a different state or a different city and it means nothing. I mean, I think there's a way to still use the materials that you've selected, to use them appropriate with the type of massing in certain locations, I think it's going to come down to the detailing of the materials to make it more special, not necessarily Spanish style, not necessarily next to a historic landmark. It's just making it a little bit more unique and less generic.
Okay, just so they're clear about that. So
That
it's
was-
not necessarily Spanish.
Yeah, that was the clarification I wanted to make. We use this term study, and then we send them away, and they come back and they've studied it, but we didn't give them a direction. They can come back and say,
Okay.
we studied it, we like the way it is. So either we tell them that I think we should be more definitive about this. Currently, the size is appropriate, the site is appropriate.
Okay.
We're looking for further development as the design continues, and you continue to bring it to us so we can see the more detail.
I understand. So, along with that comment, we'd request the applicant provide a typical window trim detail from the outside, a typical, and these can be study details, they don't have to be fleshed out fully, but an idea of how these materials react together and how they come together. And I think that's going to provide the uniqueness that we're looking for versus a generic 1x4 trim around a window.
If I could expand on Member Noon's, a reduction of the repetitiveness. There seems to be this very strict module that goes along, and if it were, especially along Montecito Street, more of a building that told a story, much like the elevations that you see around the room or the courthouse, that it broke itself up. The plan doesn't have to change at all, just the fenestration, the movements from first to second to third and fourth floor, those could all be varied to bring it more in character with the Santa Barbara expression.
There you go.
I would like one little comment that you might suggest looking at is that all of your colors are kind of in the deeper tones. And if you lighten the tones up for a great amount of the project and then deepened, had some very deep accent places, it might help a lot.
That's true. All right, well, I think there is a motion somewhere in there, so if we could get a second.
Can I just bring up one last thing? 'Cause
Yes.
there was been some discussion about maybe varying the architectural styles from one building to the next. Is that still a direction that we're?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I just wanted to be clear about that. Because there was some talk about it.
Okay.
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 I also wanted to weigh in. I agree that story poles are
Oh,
unnecessary.
yeah, okay, I agree with that too. Okay, so no story poles can be added to that motion. Okay, now can we have a second?
I'm sorry, one more comment that should be included is to verify the need for elevator. I don't see one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Verify the need for an elevator at fourth floor.
Can I second this before we keep adding?
Sure, thanks. Okay, let's take a vote and we can reconcile that later.
Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen?
Yes?
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Six?
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do you have any questions for us
Oh,
for clarification?
Well, most of my questions, which you discussed amongst yourself, which I appreciate, were on the direction for the style. So it sounds like the next steps for us are coming back with additional detail on how we would achieve the style and might vary it across the site. But the direction is not to propose a Spanish building and craftsman.
Yes, correct.
Consistent style,
Yeah.
but differentiated.
Yes, got it.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna take a 3-minute break. open back up. I don't know if we ever closed. Item 3, 730 East Coda Street. Proposal to demolish the existing development and construct 2 3-story apartment buildings consisting of 5 units with 5 parking spaces, new landscape and hardscape. Project utilizes the AUD program with an average unit size of 927 square feet. Project design approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility findings and urban design guidelines. It was last here on, what was it?
Yeah, slight correction that it was last reviewed on May 15th, 2023, not February 21st, 2023, and I have the May minutes available for your review.
Great, let's pull those up.
They're not much.
And I think it didn't say anything.
It was a short.
Yeah. Okay. Positive comments. Okay, great. Well, welcome back. Introduce yourselves and walk us through any changes.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. My name is Kevin Moore, architect for the owner, and I have with me.
I'm Robert Richards, landscape architect.
Okay. So, I think everybody on the board was there in the last meeting, so I won't go back too far. Really what we've been doing over the past year now is working through the process with the city planning department to get our project deemed complete, as well as getting going on grading and stormwater plans and some small massages that were required to make the parking maneuvering work and the addition of Robert's work with the landscape plan. So the building itself is not, or buildings themselves have not changed. And just really quickly, here's our site across the street from Santa Barbara Junior High. And existing house will be removed. Some of the neighborhood photos. It's a, mishmash of styles. And then the aerial give you a sense of the mass, bulk, and scale of the neighborhood. It's mixed, small and large throughout. And so let's just go to the site plan here. So again, most of the work has been done here on the site plan. A lot of dimensional tightness in the parking maneuvering to get into these garages and then back out, and to get across the sidewalk safely without endangering the pedestrians, as well as figuring out the grading around this. So the site is technically not in the flood zone, even though it shows up in the FEMA map. The elevations provided by the survey show that it's actually above the flood level. However, we still have a very high groundwater table there, so the site is not, it will not work to just use permeable pavers and satisfy stormwater requirements. So we have to gather all the water and put it into a tank and then let it seep out slowly. And that has driven some of the grading requirements, but before we do that, let's just run through. The plans have not changed, floor plans have not changed. We've, have the addition of little roof wells here for future mechanical equipment. The drawings are now hardlined in the computer. This is the elevation facing the junior high. So this is Coda Street. We have one entrance to this unit here, and then we have our common open space coming through this little walled courtyard and around the corner to an entrance to this unit. And then on Noble Street, we have Coda Street on this side with the existing street trees and sidewalk, and then
same elevations that you saw previously, and little entrance gate to get back to the 3 units in the back here. And here we are on the south elevation, still retaining all of the same elements. We, in discussions with the neighbor and the last comments that were made by the neighbor, we've gone ahead and added these privacy walls that extend up at the little balconies here, outdoor spaces. So this extends up pretty high to try and keep people to obscure views off to the side, and same with this. And then we have this little site wall along the back here to do the same, to provide privacy there. All right. And then this is the west elevation. You can see that here's our entrance to this Unit A, as we're calling it. Some windows, as suggested by Vice Chair Whalen, into this little space here. And really the biggest change on this elevation was previously we had a little bit of a step down into the neighboring yard, and that was about 2'6" coming back here as it got to the worst point. But based on our grading and drainage plan, that has grown to be about a 4-foot difference at its worst case scenario. So it does push the height of the ridge, which is actually back farther here, to 34. And but the visible portion of this side of the building would be the eaves, which is about 31 feet above our grade, which you can see that we're +2 at this point above our 0, which is out here. So we're actually 29 feet above grade here. So, and I can just run through that grading for you really quickly. There's our schematic grading and drainage plan. So the idea is to come off of Nopal here, up the little driveway apron across the sidewalk. We ramp down as quickly as we can in this section. And then all of this area is sloped to the center line where we can collect it and still have enough fall to come out and down here to the sidewalk and across here. So that's really driving some of our heights, especially along this property line here. And I will let Robert walk through the landscape plan.
All right, so the landscape on this project is kind of a lot of skinny planters along the building, so it's a pretty challenging project to kind of fit planting in. So we've got this kind of entry courtyard in here, which is the one kind of guest pedestrian type of area on the project. So in this courtyard, got over here a triple Kentia palm. Was trying to get some vertical plant material in there, and then I've kind of carved out 2 planters to plant the inside of this space. As you come along the sidewalk here, this is really about the widest spot that we've got for planting along the building. So I'm trying to layer in some ground covers along with some grasses behind it, and then I'm kind of hitting the corners with some accent plantings. And then there's a lot of vines proposed in this project due to the walls, both on the building and around the site. So I'm indicating a vine on this face of the wall. There's some vines on the back area, the parking, the face of the building over here, along the side over here as well. So I'm trying to kind of hit the building and the walls as much as possible with the vines. So we get over to the corner of the project here. It's indicating for some vertical accent type planting just to kind of accentuate the corner of the building. and then some more planting that kind of works within this narrow strip. We got another vine over here, and then I've called out for a few tropical accent type plants to be interspersed in spots along the project. So some ideas of what those could be. I was using succulents as a way to kind of dress up the entry points, both at this courtyard and at the driveway. And over along this way, it's kind of repeating some of the same plants. So I tried to layer up various types of plants to work against the building. And then the access along the side of the site here, there's a wall at the neighboring property. So this is also got some vines, and I guess talk about the parking here. So we're using pavers with the idea of getting in a band around them just to kind of break up the paving a little bit. And then I thought that the paving in the pedestrian area could be a different color. So I've got two options of colors for the paving. And then I was also showing some ideas of how we could support the vines using a wire system. So got a lot of different ideas and colors and various types of plants. They're kind of indicated on the plan here, but that's the overall idea.
New street trees, I know.
Oh yeah, we also have 3 new street trees, which I talked to Nathan Slack about, and he said he's going to tell me what tree they're going to be. I think they're changing the designation at the moment, but right now it's either magnolia, which I believe is a street tree, or a arbutus tree. So.
Okay, well, I think that concludes our presentation.
All right, thank you. We will open public comment for this item.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips for this particular item, so I will move on to virtual comment. And I do not see any hands raised for virtual comment, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this particular item. So at that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
Okay, let's close public comment and go to questions from the board. Board Member Sofrin, do you have any questions?
Yeah, did I miss, is there, like, where are you guys putting trash?
So we've designed the project so everybody's trash is in their garage.
My only comment, that's it.
Okay, and Board Member Noon?
None, thanks.
Board Member Black?
Nothing for me.
Vice Chair Whalen?
I'm going to ask former board member Moore to refresh my feeble memory about a couple of things. Isn't the existing driveway on Coda a shared driveway with the neighboring parcel? And this kind of has a
yes.
secondary question. There was a lot of discussion about separating or the distance spacing from that historic property, right? And so that led to the little
Correct. So
patio in front. So what are the separation distances now?
okay, well, to answer your first question, so this is the survey. So Coda Street
There it
is
is.
here. There's a shared little driveway entrance, roughly down the middle. So this is going to get reworked so our side of it gets closed off. Theirs gets reworked to allow for it. And they actually have another driveway entrance on this side. Good. So there's that, and then we go back to our site plan here. Here's that driveway entrance shown reworked for the neighbor. The addition of parkway space there. And what this common open space does is it pushes this building face back 15 feet or more, actually, from the property line. The neighboring building is 12 and a half feet off of the property line there. So the closest we get, at least in the front here, is 5 feet off the property line. But we're also back 15 plus 20 feet.
So beyond that patio wall, which is shown pochade dark to the south, Is that a full height wall? What are we looking at?
This jumps up, and the idea is just to provide a buffer between these
And then
parcels.
as long as we're on this drawing, Mr. Moore, can you scroll down? Remind me, what are the red areas? It looks like that's
This is the
within setbacks.
This is the complicated way of describing how you do variable setbacks.
Okay.
So you have to show your compensating area, which is this space, and then you have to show the areas that are within the setback, and you have to do that for the
Sort
entire.
of this for that.
Correct.
That's very illuminating. And then if you could go to your, it would be west elevation. Didn't we have some discussion about animating that blank wall? Or am I thinking of something else?
I think we had in the more hand-drawn renderings, I think we had some faux openings there.
That was it.
And
So
those
they've been erased.
could likely return, yes.
All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Board Member 6.
Just to, I know that there's not much we can do about it technically, but how much did the rear unit raise relative to the neighbor?
About 2 feet.
2 feet. Okay, that's not much. Are you, to the landscape architect, will the group of palms in the upper corner of the common area conflict with those huge street trees?
These guys?
Are those drip lines accurate? It seems like they're just humongous and might even have to be trimmed to accept the building.
I could double check on that and
It'd be unfortunate to have these beautiful palms conflicting with established street trees.
I agree, we can make sure that that's all gonna work there.
And is there any, what do you have, is there any opportunity to do more in the parkway on both sides of the building for three-dimensional plantings?
I did call out a few species of plants to be used in the parkway.
Planted it, I
So
saw
it's just kind of schematically identified. You know, the city wants you to maintain low plants. in
Low
those.
plants, okay.
So the intent is to provide new planting there, and it'll be detailed.
And then back to Mr. Moore, I think it's on the north, is it north yet? No, south. The south elevation of that one. I noticed on the other elevations, I know that you're a prime designer, but it seems like the extent of the rakes on these things are.
Yeah, that seems a little.
You know, maybe it's just the scallop, the dimension of a scallop would be better.
Mhm. I think we're just missing those at those locations.
I mean, should they be tighter to the wall than they seem? And then I think if you go to another elevation, I think that you have very steep pitches for that second floor. Where does that show up? You go to the neighboring elevation, what would that be, the west elevation?
Oh, are we talking about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is our stair as we come up. So unfortunately, we need to slope this at a greater angle than, a traditional.
Well, yeah, but can you relax that and bring it, the wall higher so you have a consistency there and maybe have a extra tall window there to be dramatic?
Are you suggesting that we raise this plate?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it would seem, we're not losing that, significant massing issue to the next door neighbor if we do that. I think it'd be a lot more consistent architecture and maybe introduce a dramatic high window.
Fair enough.
And the other thing would be I would suggest skinnier proportions to your 4 windows on that west elevation, maybe 3.
On the
yeah, those are too squarish.
which
Yeah.
these guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you think? Just suggestions. Other than that, I think it's a great project.
My question would be on the street elevation for Dakota Street, yeah, north elevation. So is the intention to use the vine to kind of break up, yeah, that blank wall? Okay. Was there any consideration in using some of the detailing on your south elevation on this one? I feel like that one looks really nice and I don't know.
You mean as far as
Like maybe
adding some sort of detailing here?
detail or faux, I don't know. Just a thought.
Well, I might defer to the landscape architect if there's room to plant something that's more sizable rather than a vine. We can figure that out. It is right behind that street tree though, isn't it?
Oh, there, okay.
Espalier something. Gruyere for one instance.
Yeah, we could look to get some nice, sizable landscaping up against that wall.
Just a thought and a question. And then the other question would be, if we could go to the west, yeah, west elevation. Is the plan to do like a cap on the wall, or is it just to do plaster on the site wall? Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
It would just be a plaster.
Just plaster.
Plaster wall.
And then was Vice Chair Whalen's comment to add more windows to that wall? Is that what he was asking about? Okay.
I believe so.
Gotcha.
In a more vertical fashion.
Slender, yes. Okay, those are my questions. Any follow-up questions?
I have another question. So, I don't know if I missed something. Have you suggested colors yet?
Yes, we actually have.
Wait, have we seen them? And also, while we're doing that, details on the those little balcony railings. I don't have a sense of how they're being articulated.
So the idea is that they would be similar to this. The ones that are a full railing would be, a typical iron railing with potentially a little knuckle detail or a little twist, something like that. And then the ones that are partial height would simply just emerge from the plaster top.
Mm-hmm.
The proposed, we have a tile surround we're proposing for the rear units, and then some, this is a typical Santa Barbara color for exterior of a building, and then we have some ideas for potentially the window colors being different, potentially a little green, a blue, and then a dark bronze.
So that you have that single doorway that faces Coda Street, I guess, so it would probably end up looking a bit like this?
Yeah, as well as the rear-facing units, they all have a tile surround.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's move into comments. They're here for project design approval. Board Member Sofrin,
No comments.
do you feel like it's ready for PDA?
I do feel like it's ready for PDA.
Board Member Noon.
That would be my only comment. It's ready for
Okay,
PDA.
great.
Yeah.
Board Member Black.
Mine as well.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's ready for PDA. A couple of other comments. While I'm partial to Kentia palms, one of my favorites, they are not naturally clumpers, and they are monocarpic, meaning that they're going to die eventually once they bloom. So perhaps a windmeal palm, trichocarpus, or a natural smaller clumping might be more appropriate, not extremely important. Like I say, I really like Kentias. And I really like the turquoise trim. I think that bespeaks Santa Barbara tradition in a very deep way.
Okay, thank you. Board Member 6.
Yeah, I think it's ready. And the comments that I made are suggestions to the architect.
Okay, who would like to make a motion?
Can I just address that one comment you had? I happen to have, coincidentally, 2 triple Kentias in my yard. I planted them 19 years ago, and they're now like 15, 20-foot trunks. I planted them from 15 gallon, I think.
Yeah.
So
They
do well.
They do get big.
Yeah, well, 20 years later, they're not too big to me, so, thank you.
He knows best.
Okay. Who's making the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Make a motion for project design approval with the, what I just mentioned, maybe that exploration of that wall. That was Commissioner Whalen had called out on that structure, that blank wall, to see if you could add back in some of the articulation that was discussed at the last.
To the west wall.
Thank you. The west wall. The project compatibility findings, the project's consistency with design guidelines, it's compatible with the architectural character of the city and neighborhood, with appropriate size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. Sensitivity to adjacent landmarks and historic resources, public views of the oceans and mountains are not affected, and use of open space and landscaping. Anything else?
Second. Any discussion?
I've already communicated to the architect that my suggestions, whether he takes them or not, is okay. They don't need to be in the record.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all right. You can second. Let's take a vote.
Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member 6?
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, and there's a 10-day appeal period.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. We will adjourn our meeting for today.